It was a very tough game. Obviously, it came down to the end, and I don't think we played our best, but we still got the win. And this is the finals. It's never going to be easy, and we're happy about that. But we know game 2 is going to be very important. Come on up. Oh, yeah.
Lauren, thank you for joining us. If you would also begin with an opening statement, and then we will go to questions, please.
I guess I'm just happy that we won game 1. It wasn't the prettiest game, and I know we can get better from this going into game 2, but pretty much like last game, I'm just pretty happy I've got this person as my teammate. Yeah, she's a champion.
Could both of you talk about what it is in your makeup that you want the ball at the end of the game? And Sue, did you feel like as soon as the ball left your hand, it was going in?
I can't speak for both of us, but I think I'm going to be able to. Probably since we were, well, maybe for her, like 2 years old. She was like 6 foot back then. But definitely for me, at an early age, that was just something that always happened. Whether it was AAU or high school, into college, now in the WNBA, it's just something that situations I was put in at a very early age. So it's kind of just, I don't know. You get confidence the more you do things and the more you're successful at them. And I think at this point in my career, it's something that I enjoy. Those situations are fun, especially when they go in. And as far as the shot goes, I was able to get a really good look. And it was a pull-up, which is what I like, and swish.
Dana Squires, Mix 96. I was going to ask you about that last shot. It was so fun in Phoenix doing that in 2.8 seconds that you thought you'd do it again?
Do it again? Sure. Keep it interesting. This time it was a little bit different design play than it was in Phoenix. I actually had the ball in my hands to create, and like I said, the way they guarded the pick and roll, I was just able to get an open look, and it was a pull-up, and I'm just glad it went in because, to be honest, I got a very similar look about, 30, 45 seconds earlier, and it didn't go in. So maybe that helped.
So you say that, but still, it's a huge moment. Do you, at this point in your career, you've talked about the game has slowed down for you. Mm-hmm. You see things so well. Was that a case at the end there that you could see it that way?
A little bit, because they had been going under pick and rolls for a majority of the second half, and I had a feeling that if I went off the pick and brought it back to the same side that I had just come from, they were going to be very low, and I was going to be able to get a look. Like I said, I got virtually the same look, 45 a minute earlier. So I kind of had an idea that I was going to get it, and it just played out well. And then, once you're in your shooting form, nothing else to think about but trying to knock it in.
Scott Stanchak, WNBA.com. Lauren, can you talk about Atlanta they're known for rebounding in their defense, and you guys out-rebounded them today. Can you talk about how huge that was?
Oh, that is huge. I didn't know that. But
Me neither.
yeah, look, they're a great team offensively and defensively, and I think rebounding, every game they've kind of hurt us. Today, like I said before, it was a really good game for us just to sort of get the finals jitters out of the way and to be able to move forward and work on the things that we need to get better. But, the rebounding was definitely a huge plus for us, obviously. But I know that we're all not going to sit back and rest on that. We know that they're going to come out after us on Tuesday.
Guys, Chris Francis from Cairo here in Seattle. Talk about the pace of the game a little bit. It's still in the 70s, but they did run you up and down and turned you over more than you want, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to have to definitely go back and look at. Against this team, they led the league in creating turnovers, so we know that. Doesn't always mean it's going to be easy, but we do know that they like to do that. And not just that, they like to take it and ram it down your throat. And we saw that early, and we saw it often. And I think every time we were able to establish ourselves and get a lead, we'd have a couple turnovers, and they just went out and ran. And they got easy points that way. And anytime, early on they weren't hitting their shots, anytime you can get easy baskets, all of a sudden the basket looks a little bigger. So for us, it's definitely something we have to work on, taking care of the ball.
I agree.
So did you have to convince Brian to give you the ball in your hands that last
No,
trip?
actually.
It was completely the opposite.
Well, the last game against Phoenix, T had the ball and was the one creating, and then looking for Lauren or I, afterwards. So he kind of had me taking the ball up the court, running the pick and roll, and I said, why don't you give it to T and we'll do the same thing? He was like, no, you have the ball. And I was like, okay. So that's kind of how it worked out, opposite of what you might have thought. But I'm glad it worked out regardless.
Lauren, can you talk about the conversation at halftime about getting more involved offensively for you particularly?
I mean, it wasn't really a conversation. I think everybody just wanted to sort of pull together, and like I said at the end of the game, we definitely don't feel like we've won anything special right now. But at halftime, it just felt like that. It felt like we knew we could play better basketball, and we sort of went away from the things that got us to where we are now. So something like that isn't necessarily a conversation because we've got so many scorers and so many threats.
7 shots wasn't good enough in the first half. We wanted to get her the ball as much as possible to get her established. And it was definitely something we talked about. She's a little modest over here.
I'm not.
2 more questions.
I don't remember. I wasn't listening.
Sue, with Swin in foul trouble, it seemed like it was a particularly important game that Camille Little had tonight.
she's
and
awesome.
Just the rebounding and her offensive output.
It seemed tonight, she was the key to the game, and it seemed tonight, every time they made a run, every time, we relaxed, Camille was the one to step up, whether it be a defensive stop, a 3-point play, and she had a lot of energy. She was the one constantly encouraging the rest of the team. And that's something Camille has done for us the entire season. If I had to pick an unsung hero for our team, it would most certainly be her.
Yeah.
And especially, like you said, with Swing getting in foul trouble, that messes things up a little bit. They had Angel in foul trouble too, so, it throws off your routine, your pattern. But I thought Camille did a tremendous job tonight.
Last question.
So you kind of joked about it, having the ball in your hands after doing it differently last week in Phoenix, but how nice is it to have multiple different options where, it can be T handling the ball or you handling the ball to give defenses different looks down the stretch?
That's the beauty of our team, and that's what we've seen pretty much every game this season. Anytime we've been in critical situations, Lauren's hit big shots, Swin's hit big shots, T's hit big shots, Camille, myself. I mean, it goes on and on. Laco, Svet, everybody has been in those situations, and it is nice to have that. And I think even better, it's nice to have 5 players on the court who are more than willing to take those shots or make the play. And when you have that, it's dangerous. It's hard to guard.